Hello, beautiful people. It's Kira, aka Words by Kira. And in this video, I have my really good friend Andrew on, and we're going to be discussing letting go of emotional baggage. I make videos about self-love and living joyfully. So you should definitely stay tuned because this is going to be a really great episode. When did you first notice, like, I have some baggage going on? Like, I have some past pain that is kind of wearing me down a little bit. When did you first notice that?
So it's really interesting because I didn't really fully understand or even know that I even had anything like kind of wrong. Just kind of kept like going on and on and on with like life. Back in 2013, like my life was like changed by the gospel of Jesus. And I think since then, like it's been like a lot of reflecting and just like change. Like I'm no longer the same person that I was even like back then. And I think I guess I really noticed it like last year, like early last year, but up until then, like I just kind of kept living life out as if like, everything was just, this is the way life is. And, I know that there's like a lot wrong with me, but like wasn't willing really to dig like deep or kind of let go of things. So I think like last year in January, that kind of really like took a dive into that direction. And that's when, and probably by May, like I realized like how much like I was like holding on to. And like after I started like processing that.
What were things you were noticing around that time where you were like, okay, yeah, something's going on with me?
Yeah. I just like always had it's interesting because everyone would say like you're an open book, and like I was, but like just like in the wrong kind of light. Like it was, I don't know how to like really like put it. Like I was very closed off, but I was very like open about stuff that like didn't really matter, like it wasn't like something that was
like not about the important things.
Like
private.
Like I think I used a lot of humor to mask everything. That's what I really kind of realized was like a lot of the way that I conducted myself was like in humor and just making sure that like I always thrive for like this attention, but like I also didn't want the attention. It was really a weird like it sounds stupid when you think about it, but it's like I wanted like that. I didn't want the attention on me, but like in return, like in me saying things that I said, like the attention was on me. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I just never wanted to get to a place where like people really like knew me or like, I just really closed myself off. Yeah, I don't know. Did I answer that question?
No, I'm just no.
That's gonna come into play because like I'm gonna forget the question by the end of it, and we might go into left field. So I think just letting you know that could happen.
Just for context, people, like Andrew and I are really good friends. Like we always crack each other up, but we talk about stuff too. No,
it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be like we actually sit next to each other at work and talking
for hours. Yeah. While doing our work though, okay.
Get that work done.
You were explaining how like you wanted attention and you wanted to talk to people, but you would keep your important matters to yourself and you didn't really want to show people your full self. So I guess you noticed that last year. You started really noticing like, I'm not being open with people and I don't feel comfortable showing who I am fully. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think it was like just so much stuff like just that I kept having to like I kept pushing down and like it'd come out and I just would kept pushing these emotions and stuff down. If I'm honest, like I didn't even really know, like I know what emotions are, like anger, like all those things, but like I didn't know that I was not dealing with a lot of things from the past that like led to explosive anger. Like it led to just like hyperactive, like all this stuff. It just like, it was like a whirlwind in my head that like it was debilitating at times because I was just trying to just keep myself kind of self-medicated,
Mm-hmm.
like from like feeling.
Yeah. You want to stay numb. You were trying to just.
Yeah, it like the therapist kind of explained it for the first time to me as like a self-insulation, that's what he said. And like the when I first heard that, I was like, I don't even understand what that means, like what do you mean by that? And then it's just like kind of like all the things that you do to keep yourself from like keep yourself safe and not wanting to like deal with any kind of emotions or like feeling. So I think that was kind of one of those, that was like a big stepping stone for me to be like, oh wow, I do this and this, and and it's to keep me from like really actually having to feel and like process things. Yeah.
When I'm listening to you say that, I just immediately thought of like, it must be a lot of pressure in regards to like being a man. I feel like there's so many, especially, when we were growing up, it's so much messaging about like, just be tough, suck it up, don't cry. And it gets like internalized. So I'm so proud of you that you were actually like going to a therapist and trying to figure out your emotions and navigate it, because you have to kind of learn like, wow, I'm upset, but what's bothering me? That takes next level like processing. So I really commend you for doing that.
Yeah. And you know what the thing is it's definitely like, it's God that did that, because I think at the end of the day, like I was reluctant to it. I was just not wanting to do that. And I just, at church, like they were just talking like in the beginning of the year, like, do you want to continue like going on like the same like old like way? And COVID had just like that year, I literally was spiraled out of control because I wasn't able to keep myself busy. I was like closed off. I was all these different things, like, and the anger and anxiety just built up to the point where it's just like, no, I don't want to. And that's when I just started like really just, God just really told me like what to do. And I knew that I needed to at first like talk to my father. And like, just like there was a lot of stuff that like from the past that just like went on that like I needed to like air out. And that was probably the first step of everything, was actually like self-examining myself. And like just I didn't just go and just like spit things out, like that wasn't what it was. It was like I actually like really thought and like sat in the anxiety, in the like I just was still, like I was just still, and I was like, all right, I need to know like what to do. And that was the first part. And then like after talking to my dad, like there was a lot of stuff like that I won't get into because my parents, like, and everyone, like, everyone involved, like that I've like, there's a lot of stuff that happened that like they're not the same person either. So like, just, I don't want to go into like,
of course,
that kind of stuff. Because my parents are great parents. Like they did a lot for me. So like, it's not like in that way. It's just, just a lot of things. And I think after that first conversation, that's when I felt like there was almost like tons of weight that just like came off of me.
Wow.
And like fell from me. And my brain actually, like, it just wasn't so like, it wasn't going at like 100 miles an hour. Like, you remember when we would talk, like it'd be like, like, everything was going like 100 miles an hour, and it just was like calm. For like the first time in like ever, I actually felt like very calm. And like that, like a weight had been lifted.
Yes.
And that was like the stepping stone towards like the rest of my year.
So I want to ask, and of course I'm respecting your privacy, your family's privacy.
Yeah.
But if you wouldn't mind, like, how did you prepare for that conversation with your dad? And you don't have to tell us specifics, like, did you talk to your therapist about it, or did you like, what did you do to make yourself ready for the conversation?
So I wasn't actually in therapy yet. I didn't actually go to therapy. I yet, like I had just realized like, and it was interesting because back in 2015, like I had like a lot of anxiety and like a lot of stuff that went on. And I knew God was like tugging me then, like, you need to talk to your dad, you need to talk to your dad. And I didn't do it. And so ended up being another 6 years until like I was, up to this moment where I was like, all right, I need to talk to this man. And like, I need to like, just be real and honest. And like a lot of it was just fear of like the rejection of like what I could possibly get from him, and like just like all that kind of stuff. It was just a lot of fear of like just going and being real, because I didn't really know how to do that. Like the way that like my family dealt with things was just like through humor and like, that typical like Italian like family, you just kind of like brush everything off, like everything just like you kind of just jive at one another, and like, and it's very hurtful. And like you just keep going at that, and then like you're just eating a meal, or like whatever the case may be, and it's never really fully like resolved. And like one of the big things that was like I've realized also like in that was that like we just don't listen to one another. So it's just always just like going back and forth at one another, and no one's really listening to like actually understand the other person. And like that was like that was huge, and recognized like we're just like talking no, but like that was another huge like recognition of like why I behaved in the way that I did, and why like if like a lot of people knew me before, I always needed to get affirmation. It was like drilled in because I didn't think that people were actually listening, because I just like didn't grow up with like really feeling like I was heard. Like it was just like that was always the case. If you knew me, like you'd hear the same thing over and over. And I'm not like completely done with that, but like that's come a long way since then, because I've realized like that I don't really need that stuff anymore. Like I'm like, people are listening. It's just, it's not, or like I can like recognize in situations now, like where I'm like, okay, this like, they're not listening. Like it's not, or like, I could put boundaries up in like that area where it's just like, all right, I'm not gonna like, go and just beat myself up over something or whatever the case may be, like in that regard, like, and try to like get this out to this person because they're just not wanting to listen.
Yes.
So that was a huge thing there. We're like well past like that the question, but
this conversation is flowing, and wow, that's so great that you were able to talk to your dad about that. I had to have a conversation with my dad too. Love my dad so much, love my parents, but same, like there were just certain things from the past that I wanted to talk about, and just noticing like different things about my sister and I, just like childhood insecurities that I had that I really had to address. And I just wanted to like talk to my parents about it. But ultimately, I realized I had to talk to like little Kira, as corny as that sounds. Like my therapist, she's done a lot of inner child healing for me that's helped me so much. And I realized that there were certain people I had to forgive, and then just certain ways I had to like accept myself. But it's a process. So yeah, it's great to have those conversations with your parents if you're able to. For like anybody listening that maybe like you're feeling like, wow, this is really touching me. God must be speaking to me. Like definitely go for it, I say, in a healthy way.
Yeah, and I think like where I had come like in what you're saying too is like I came to that point where it was like there was like it wasn't really like a negotiation at that point. Like I knew like I just had to do that for myself in order to like, it was like God kind of tugging me, you need to do this to like move on. And like, and I think like it's just really a shame because I'm kind of seeing like maybe people just don't really want to do that because it's really, really difficult. And like, it's coming off as though it was like really easy. It was not. Like it was really like, I mean, for pretty much most of like 21, for the first half, I was in tears like most of it. And like I didn't want to continue on with like doing this, but like I realized that, you know, after that first little bit of weight that came off, the like peace and like joy that like I can like still feel and like know is there from God, like it just was like I need to do this because I'm not gonna I don't want to suffer in the way that I was suffering like before.
Yeah.
And then like I also just wanted to like, you know, it was also to help the people that I like that have really hurt me, like, you know, so they can understand and maybe grow in themselves. And it's up to them to do that. But it wasn't like, you know, that wasn't like an obligation. It was just more of like I needed to do that for myself. You know, it's really interesting because even as I started to do this, it was little things like was like it was I could kind of call it like it almost felt like a tornado of emotions were going on around me.
Mhm.
And a lot of my like life from like back then, like even like early on, like really young, like was coming back into my head, like these little snippets of things that I had like literally just like kind of like cut off.
Yeah.
Um, and there was like a huge thing that came up that really was like rocked me, but it was like an abusive thing that had happened. And like I had completely like cut that out of my head.
Mhm.
And that came back in, and like I wanted to be very careful with it because like, you know, I didn't, you know, I didn't want to like make something up, and I knew I wasn't making something up, but I also like, you know, was able to forgive that person.
Mm.
And like see where that was like another part of like why I was like kind of behaving like in this way, like
Yes.
um and where a lot of anxiety was. And um you know, it's just like I could see where like all these relationships that I've had or like tried to have like just failed because of a lot of just lack of trust and all
Mm.
that kind of stuff. And I had like it's really crazy because I like in the grand scheme of things, like I had like complete abandonment issues. Um and like that kind of really came like into full like force like with this whole thing. Um and It's just like that's like a lot of the reason why like I always kept like a busy schedule or whatever. But like it also is interesting because when in doing this, like I kind of always push people out. So like that like those issues of like abandonment, like I still just like I didn't really necessarily deal with it. I just would like push people away. And like the therapist was like, well, you have these issues of abandonment and like you don't want to be alone, but like you've made yourself alone. And like that was a huge thing in my head, like where I was like, wow, I really kind of have done that. I know like I've done a lot for people, and like my main like, you know, joy in this life is like loving Jesus and loving others like well. And I just didn't love like myself, or like, you know, I wasn't I didn't realize that until last year, like how like kind of emotionally out of tune I was,
Mhm.
like with my own self.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I want to give you a hug. I know. We'll see each other soon. Wow, Andrew.
yeah.
So I feel like I have like so many questions I want to ask you, but I guess I'll start with this one. With all that, you know, you said in 2021, like you literally were crying a lot. It was so hard in the first half of the year. What kept you motivated to be like, you know what? I don't want to go back to how I was before. This is really tough. This is really scary. I'm facing all these emotions I've been running from being super busy. Like, what made you be like, no, I want to live differently now? Like, what kept you going?
um you know, it's Jesus, like, you know, like as a Christian and like knowing him, like I think like we're called, like it's like the calling to like die to herself and like to like really just like, just be more like him. And like I it's like I just had that, I just knew that like in like I had to continue on in order like to feel this pain in order to like grow and feel the freedom. Like, like God offers like immense freedom. And like I've never felt that until last year, like what that freedom like actually feels like. Um, and so I think like just that, like I just felt like I knew the freedom that came like pretty quickly after. Um, and so like I think that was like the motivation for me to like continue on, was like if I felt like this way over just talking to, you know, my family, my immediate family, like, because there's a lot of stuff there. Or like, what else, like, what could it be like if I just really dig and just like sit in it?
Yeah.
And, I was realizing like a lot of things. Like, I realized like the hurt that I had, like, manifested in like tons of different ways. And one of them was like, just like bullying people, like in high school, like, like just verbally like bullying people. And it just was so wrong. And I just like realize like that, and I'm not never going to be perfect at this. Like I know like I'm never going to be, and that there's like freedom in that. But like it's better to at least know it, where I can like now like be like, okay, like I did you wrong, like I'm sorry, instead of
Mhm.
before it's just like I wasn't really capable of like saying sorry even.
Mm.
Like I didn't really, I mean I could do it, but like did I really mean it? And like was it like something that like meant something there, so like I think um yeah, and like I was able to just like kind of make amends in that like area, which is so crazy because that's high school, that's like 20 years ago. But like it's something that like still was like there. And so that came up, like all these different things like started to come up.
Mhm.
And like I just like I've become more in tune to them, and like I'm able to like kind of see it for what it is, and just like love people even better, just because like, in that way of like just in letting go, like vulnerability is like where I really found like the full freedom,
Yes, because how
you
freedom
know?
is to show up as your full self, flaws and all, and you accept that in yourself, and then in turn you can accept that in others, and you can just
Yeah.
let yourself be.
Well, like before it was like really hard, like, cause I had all this pain like inside that I wasn't really knowing or dealing with or whatever the case would be, and not even knowing that. But then it was hard for me to like kind of not judge others like in this way or this way. And I'm like, now it's like, okay, I know someone, like everyone's carrying something, but
Yeah.
like I don't like, and some certain things like I'm now able to be like, okay, like I can have more compassion over it, I guess. Like,
Mhm.
instead of before like just not really having like that kind of compassion.
Yeah.
And so like that's just like a growth area there, where it's like, certain things that would be like, I just don't understand, like, or like this is, like, and just kind of make a fuss out of it. Like I'm able to like at least to the best of my ability, like try to like empathize with it. I'm still a work in progress, so it's like not perfect and it never will be. And I'm like good with that, but at least I can like say I've tried, or like
Look how much,
continue to try.
yes, and look how much you've grown. Like you've made such huge changes in your life in the last year. Um,
Mhm.
and I wanted to ask you, like, do you have any advice? I mean, this whole thing has pretty much been a lot of great advice, but do you have any more advice you'd want to give to people that are struggling with depression or anxiety or past trauma? Like, what would you tell them to do?
There is freedom. You can find freedom. I think, you know, I know for me, like I find freedom in Jesus, like, and like what he's done. And so like I know that some people probably watching this aren't Christians, and like I'd really encourage you to explore that more. And I think like that's really where like the strength and help and the guidance like I got like was through him, and being able to like just have the strength to continue on like for the day, like even if it was just something like small. And I think like, you know, don't let like the anxiety and all that just allow you to like not actually fully deal with things. Like I don't know. I think like, you know, I was one of those people that like would always say like, I processed it. I processed it. Like, you know, I'm a processor in the moment. And like I'm definitely one that processes verbally. Like everyone knows that about me. Like I need to talk it out. Like that hasn't changed at all. Like I need to talk it out. But like I'm definitely not an internal processor, but like it's crazy how much like that when that came, like it just like I just like wanted to back into a corner because I was like, I'm like the worst person or like whatever the case may be. Like, and I think like I always thought that I was just so bad and like so much worse than all these other people. And it was just like after like talking to a lot of the people and like a lot of my close friends, like they struggle with the same exact stuff that I did, you know, like
Yes.
and it's just like and but it's like when you're in that like that bubble of like when you like because what I'm saying from like an early age, like I closed it off. Like I that's where like it was really hard for me too, is like at an early age like I shut down. So in doing that, like I that's really where like a lot of the attention like deficit and like all that kind of stuff happened because I just
Mhm.
shut everything off. It's I'm seeing like where all that kind of stuff like it just came out in like fits of anger or like, you know, like it's just I always, you know, people wouldn't take me as an angry person, but like I was like an extremely angry person. Like things would just set me off that like didn't why would they set me off? Like and I'm not like full like you know, I'm not fully like perfect now, like things like annoy me or
Nobody's
whatever. Like, you
perfect.
know, like that's never going away. But like, you know, fully because everyone has something that annoys them. But it's just like dealing with it and like being like, okay, like where is this like rooted now? Like, could I
Yeah.
figure out where this is rooted? And then like, you know, a lot of the stuff that I think that it's really funny because like last like in 2020 like a lot of the stuff that I was just so like pissed off about with the pandemic was like, I can't go do anything, like I can't do this, I can't do that, and like, I just distracted myself with all these other things to just like keep me from actually like being free from other things that I like was trying to distract me from.
Yeah.
But like I think that's where a lot of like what I said earlier, like you know, it's going to be painful, but with that pain comes, you know, you can't grow without pain.
Exactly.
Um, and so like I've just learned that significantly. And that last year, you know, we're still kind of locked down for a lot like earlier, like last year. And I'm like, what am I just going to continue to just try to fill the time and do like whatever and, you know, be so busy that my head's popping off, or am I just going to like actually sit with this and deal with like the issues? And in doing that, I'm like very thankful that I did that because yeah, for anyone that like wants to do it, it's just not going to be easy, and you should find the people that you really like trust the most and find a counselor that could kind of walk you through it too. Like I had a really good counselor that like kind of walked me through a lot of stuff of like where you know, I was going through all these different things and they're like, all right, stop. You said this. Why did you say that? And I was like, wow, like, okay. Like, and then like it challenged me more instead of just like spitting things out and not like really like,
Mhm. Getting to the root of it.
yeah. So like, and that it was very scary, but like at the end of the day, like it was just really freeing to see like why I did the things that I did or why like, you know, relationships failed, like, or why this, you know, like just all these different things. And I think like, you know, for being a man, like it's something that, you know, I didn't ever want to like deal with. Like there's a lot of stuff that I'd say like I wanted to take to the grave because like, you know, I'm a tough guy. Like I don't want to do that or like this or that. And if you're watching, like, it's just not worth it, you know, like, it's
Yeah.
not worth it. Like, it's not worth it. It's not, it really isn't, because, you know, in doing so, like, I can now, like, a lot of the things that I like kind of just told myself or like said I was not good enough for or whatever, like a lot of them are like, you know, relationships and like marriage and like having kids and stuff like that. And like I was, and like now those things are like are coming back in, and like I want that again. So
Ooh.
like those are really cool things like that I was just kind of closed off to, because I was like, I'm not good enough, or I need to protect myself, or whatever the case may be, like, you know. um and so like those are the types of things that like why. And then I'm kind of realizing God like kind of did that so that he can maybe provide that for me, you know, like where I'm not gonna like fail at like something, or like, you know, it won't be a distraction to like, you know, I
Yes.
don't know. I just, there was just a lot of things that I've realized like in that regard. And I think like to the men out there that don't want to do it because they're like scared, it's scary. Like that's it. Like, you know what I mean? And like I think like, you know, that real men don't cry crap, like, you know, I'm an emotional person before like even knowing what the emotional part was, like, you know, and like it's, so what if you cry like
Yeah.
over it, like,
Yes.
like,
Andrew.
you know, like I think there's the amount of crying that I did, like there were certain days last year that was like the full day, but like I wouldn't change that just because like I had to grieve like the past and process it and like understand it in
You
order
had
to like,
years worth of things you had never, it had to come out. It had to come up.
yeah, yeah. And it's really crazy because I've told you this, like, and I think that's probably why we wanted to do this, but like my brain like doesn't even feel the same. Like it doesn't even feel like I don't feel that weight anymore. Like that was in there.
Yeah.
And that is what's so amazing about it. And like it freaked me out. Like for a while, you
So
know, for the first half of the year, I was freaked out because like I wasn't the same person. And I was like, where'd that person go? Like, where'd he go? Like, and it freaked me out. I still have my wit, I still have all that kind of stuff about me. Like that hasn't changed, but like I'm able to see things a lot clearer, and I'm able to like just have more compassion and peace
yeah.
and like joy, you know. And I think like that is just, I can't believe it took a pandemic to shut me down, but like it's, you know, the pandemic has been really horrible, I understand that, but like looking back in the future, looking back like 2021, like I'll be forever thankful that like God shut down like the world and like, you know, at this pandemic for that very reason, because like I've not the same person. I've been able to like move on and like move forward.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. I feel like doing this type of self work and self reflection, like it literally just puts you on a whole nother level. I feel like just being a person, being a human, when you can like look at your life and the things you've done and the things others have done and really like forgive yourself, forgive others, like just it brings so much more peace and understanding and compassion, just like you said. And of course it changes you a lot. So how have you, how have the people in your life reacted to your change?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, so last year it was like really difficult because like I was still trying to figure out like my new self, and I was like, oh man, like, you know, I kept having, it was weird because I kept like feeling like I was going like kind of spiraling back into like my old self, but like now I look back and I'm like, that's off, like it's gone, you know, like it's not there. And there's still those little bit of fears that I have of like going back into that, or like, you know, certain things just because of that. So I just also want to make that clear that like anxiety and all that, it's not like just like completely puff like gone.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that like I don't want to give that like hope like in there. There's a ton of it that is like really gone. like, and like that's not something that I could have done on my own.
Yes.
Like, so anyways, I just wanted to say that part.
No, thank you for doing that.
You know, because I think that's a powerful like testimony, but I also like it's, you know, I don't know how everyone, you know, I would love to see like everyone like do this inner work so that they can like be free of stuff. But like I don't also want to like, you know, there's debilitating anxiety out there. There's depression, you know, that's clinical. So like I know,
Yes.
you know, that's something that people do actually struggle with. So like clinically. So I'm not trying to like say, you know, whatever. But God has the power to get rid of that. So we'll just say that. Some people are like, you're just a completely different person. And it's kind of pushed them into like doing the same thing. And like I've seen just like it's been really cool to see like my family like just kind of get like into such a better spot with one another. And just like the changes that I've seen in like my parents even has been like astounding. And yeah, I think the people that have seen me, they're like, wow, like you're just not the same person. Like what happened? And so it's really cool because now I'm able to like kind of really share it. And
Yes.
or like new people are like, you were never like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like you know, you have no idea, like, you know, I'm sitting here calm, like not moving, but like before I was like not even able to like sit still for like more than like a couple minutes, you know, or whatever. So it's like it's crazy in that sense. Yeah, so I think it's also really tough because there's people that are going to see like you changing and they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
And they might just kind of throw shade or whatever. And like I think at that point, like thankfully, like I didn't really see a lot of that. But like I think people just don't really like to see that because they kind of want that, but you got to put the work in. And you know, so thankfully like I didn't really see a lot of that, but I do know that like there was some like pushback from certain like people and stuff, like why aren't you doing this or that, you know, like a lot of that. So like it's just kind of at that point I was like, you know, I never, this is really sad, but like at 35, like I've never even understood what like a boundary was. So that was something that like I really had to like really create last year. And in doing so, like that really like helped in a lot of areas. Because I didn't want to like I didn't know what that was, you know, like I just have
we'll have to do another episode about that.
Yeah. We're running out of time and people are going to be not interested anymore, but yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll talk about
no
but that was something that was like hard to learn.
Me too, Andrew. That's why I'm like, we should definitely do a video about that because I had to learn a lot about that last year and I'm still learning.
Oh yeah, that's like it's almost like roadblocks or something like that. I'm just like hitting like when I had to do that. I was like,
so you mentioned less anger, more compassion for others, less judgment, able to like the attention deficit being improved a lot. Like there's just so many things that gotten better.
Sorry.
I'm just listing all these positives. We're not saying, you know, no one's perfect. Yeah. I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. But you sat here and gave your own testimony. And I'm just going through some of the major points that you made of how letting go a lot of this emotional baggage, processing your pain, you know, praying to God, having that connection with God, meeting your therapist, like it really improved your life vastly. And I think that's important. And I'm glad we talked about this.
Yeah. And I have one other thing, like when you were saying that is like, you know, for a long time, like I was just, and especially it's really interesting because like when I first kind of realized that I needed to talk to my dad, like that's kind of when I started the medication for ADD again, because I couldn't control it anymore. And so this past year, like last year, like I just kind of realized, I'm like, do I really need this? Like, and I kind of weaned myself off of that already, and I'm like fully off of it now.
Wow.
Um, and I'm like sitting in a chair, like not moving. So I think like that's a testament too of like, and that was another thing. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to go on ML, you know, and like all these different things. And I'm like, I don't need to like really think about that. That could just be left in the past, you know, like let that go. And um, yeah, it just, you know what else it did? It just like it helped me to like be like okay with myself. You know, I think like that's just kind of what like the whole bottom line of this is too, is like I was never okay with myself.
Mhm.
Like, and it was very evident because I would never be able to be by myself for long periods of time, like alone, well, other than sleeping, which I didn't sleep very well back then, but you know, like, or whatever the case may be, you know, like, and like that is a huge, it's a huge growth, like huge difference in growth in that. Like now it's like, it's the confidence that I have in is like way more, you know, like than like before, you know, and so like that's something to I don't know.
Be
I
proud
just, you
of.
know, and on my, I like I've been off social media for like quite some time now, but like, um, I kind of like talked a little bit about it last year because I wanted people to know, and like I wrote a couple posts about it. And one of the main things that I like continually saw is just like how prideful we can be, you know, and how prideful like I was to like think that I didn't need like help or like
Mhm.
need someone to lean on, and like, or like, you know, I could do everything on my own, and like it's just never gonna work on your own.
We need each
It's
other.
just never going to. We're not like built in that way. And um I think it was like that's just a control like factor of like thinking that I can do everything on my own. And like in doing that, like I just hurt myself more
Yeah.
from a very early age. So just wanted to make that point too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that you said that it made you feel so much more confident in yourself and okay with yourself. And that's literally like my major goal with this channel is to just promote that self-love and self-acceptance, because I feel like so many issues that we have stem from a lack of that. You know what I mean? So thank you so much, Andrew, for just talking about your journey. And
Mhm.
I'm so glad that we're friends. I'm so happy for you. And yeah, is there anything else you want to tell the people before we say bye?
Yeah, I just want to give the glory to God, and like, you know, he's like really like the reason to live. And if you don't know God, like I really hope that you can search him. And um yeah, it's just like such a crazy world that we live in, and like there's just so much, like even though it's like a lot to deal with, like there's just so much peace in following God. And I just know that that's really, yeah, that's really all I wanted to finish with. And like I just really hope that this story can you know, help someone. And I pray that it does.
I pray that it does too. Thank you so much, Andrew. I loved you on the channel. We'll have to do this again for
Yeah,
sure. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
no problem. Thanks, Kieran.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for
Bye.